Welcome back to Building a Fighter. My name is Dr. Austin Shane, sports chiropractor in Scottsdale, Arizona. With me, as always, badass strength coach in Denver, Colorado, Alex Friedman.
What up? What up?
Hello, dude. Today, we're going to be talking about leadership. And honestly, what is it? How do you become a leader? What does a good leader look like? And at what point do you need to step into that role? So, Alex, what is leadership to you?
Leadership is a super hard to define topic.
Yes, it
is what
is.
is
That's
what
why we're talking
leadership
about
is,
it.
right? And so, we started talking about this. We were brainstorming. There's a lot of different types of leadership, and like leadership, I think is best summarized by the ability to take a step forward, go where you want, and bring people with you, right? You have to be able to add some type of social dynamic to this leadership type of topic. Because if you're just leading yourself, which is a skill in its own right, I think, that's not like true on a team leadership. That's not true. It's like, how can you bring people with you, I guess, is the biggest thing I define with leadership, and do so in a authentic and meaningful way, and then obviously successful, right?
Right.
We don't want to say that I'm leading, step out in front of everybody, and then I just cause more dissent or people not liking me.
Yeah, we don't want to lead people off a cliff.
Exactly. So this whole leadership thing, I think, is underpinned by like a social awareness and ability to connect with other humans.
Yeah, and a lot of, I think at least, a lot of leadership comes down to being in the right situation, right? There's certain
Yeah.
people that are born leaders, right? And I think that's amazing, but they are few and far between when it comes to the general population, right?
Yeah.
Like certain people are leaders. Jocko Willink is a leader, right? Elon Musk
Yeah.
is a leader. But in general, it is a skill that can be trained and it has to be in the right circumstance. And why I say that is like we don't I've seen it before where an amateur fighter tries to step up and be a leader on the pro team. You're going to get shit on,
Yeah.
right? If you're not in the situation to where people want to get led by you, that's when animosity starts.
Yeah. And I
So
think,
like well, I was just going to say you need to know the right circumstance to try to step up, and you need to know the right circumstance of when do I need to put my head down and lead by example versus when do I need to speak up and lead verbally.
well, I think that's actually a really good starting point for leadership is like do the work. Be consistent. You have to like check yourself before you're going to start to be a leader and check other people or try and bring them with you. So, like if an amateur fighter might do all the right things, might show up on time, warm up,
Mhm.
give full effort, XYZ, show up to every session, blah blah blah. You might be doing the right things, right? In 2 3 years in an amateur career, that seems like a lot of work, but if you're going to step up and try and lead a 10 fight UFC vet, that it's not proportional, right?
You're
So
going to get
I
laughed at, to be
right, I
honest.
think putting your head down and leading by example has to be the starting point, right? And but that's also kind of like the sinkhole that I see a lot of people fall into. I'm the lead by example guy, and I will never step out of this role, right?
Yeah.
And so I think leading by example, crossing your T's, dotting your I's, getting everything tight on your own end is the first step because for whatever reason, our society micro focuses on hypocrisy, right?
100%. Well, what is leading by example, Alex? Like what does that look like to you?
I think honestly, and I think we overlook a lot of these small things, but it's the disciplines. It's showing up on fucking time. It's having all your gear at training, which are like menial things. But you have to be able to do these things if you're going to call people out for not being disciplined in their own right, giving the appropriate amount of effort and attention. Like I already said, showing up on time, which seems to be a huge one. Making sure you're getting your work on and not fucking off, going and missing practices every other week or whatever, right? The more consistent and I think diligent of a human being you can be and become in your habits gives you all the more credibility to step into that leadership. It doesn't automatically qualify you, like we're talking about, but it gives you at least some credibility when you can look at a body of 5 years of work and that dude is somebody I can rely on to show up. And
100%.
these are more like subtle things. Like there's nobody counting attendance or
Yeah.
looking at did he show up on
I don't know.
time?
Some teams count attendance, dude.
Which I mean, if that's what you need to do, but you need to create a feeling of like, all right, Alex is a dude that I know is going to be at practice, and I can rely on him to, give me the steady work I need, or run a good practice, or whatever it is. You have to get that underpinning confidence in your consistency.
Right. And that's like one of my number one rules of leadership is you can't throw stones if you live in a glass house, right?
Hmm.
You cannot expect other people to do something you're not doing if you want to lead them, if you want to be in the front of the pack, or if
Yeah.
you're a wolf in the all the way in the back of the pack to make sure they're fucking getting their way up.
Yeah.
But that kind of analogy I just said with the wolf pack, I think that's the next place to go, where
Yeah.
the number one thing you can do is lead by example. But when you're leading by example, you want to pick off and try to help the people that are at the back of the pack to try to get them up, because a rising tide lifts all boats, and good leaders lead everyone,
Yeah.
not just the select few. Like you'll see people that they pick their favorites and they lead one, two, three people. Good leaders start at the bottom of the boat and lift everybody up to the top.
Yeah.
And that's what allows the team to thrive, because it's the age old adage of is you're only as strong as your weakest link. Well, if I can shore up my weak link, damn, that team's going to be good.
Yeah, I think there's another pitfall in this. It's where it becomes hard to delegate that much task and attention, right?
Yep.
Because yes, absolutely, I want to lead everybody. I want to pick up kind of the weakest link. I also want to lead the front of the pack. I want to be able to help everybody, but legitimately, there's 24 hours in the day, right? And you're one person, right? So that's where if you have assistant coaches or staff or people like that's where really good leaders are good at delegating and motivating
Mhm.
people to go help these people or bring the back of the pack along in a sense because like I said, if I look at, and this is like kind of a debate that we've been having, um, should the athlete seek out the private and individual attention, or should the coach go seek out the athlete and say, "Hey, this is what you need"?
Both.
I totally agree. There's limitations on both ends, right? The athlete is already doing 2 practices a day and then has a full time job to try and make ends meet. The coach is trying to do this for 25 athletes, right? So it's like, where is the meeting in the middle? And I think what it comes down to is delegation from the coach,
Yep.
right? These are my 10 guys, and like assistant coach X, here's some of your 10 guys, and we have to cross stream some because you're a wrestling coach, I'm a striking coach, but stuff like that. But that when it's unmanaged gets really kind of lost in the weed, and then all of a sudden the athlete that doesn't seek out attention doesn't get attention.
Well, it's wild, dude. Like, oh man, making a system kind of works, huh?
Yeah,
Like,
definitely.
it's wild. But like in this setting, like leadership in and of itself, a good leader has a good system, right? A good leader should,
Yeah,
if you're, I was talking about when I was talking about leading from the back, being an athlete, putting your
yeah,
nose down. If you're a leader on a team, you want to
yeah,
lift up the people at the bottom and lifting it up. If you're a coach, being a leader means showing up prepared to practice every day.
yeah,
Being a leader means making a system that is as foolproof as possible, so that say you get sick or say your kid gets sick and you got to be home, that
yeah,
practice can go off without a hitch without you there.
yeah,
That's, as a coach, what being a leader is, because your athletes are looking to you for stability,
yeah,
especially in a unstable sport that mixed martial arts is, or combat sports
yeah,
are, right? They're looking for you to be that stability factor where no matter what, you have their back, and no matter what, you have their best interests in mind. And the only way for you to do that is to have the best system possible, so that they know that they're progressing every single time that they're giving you effort.
yeah. So I think as we kind of map this out, like the first bullet point we talked about was like consistency and being, bulletproof in your own behaviors. The second bullet point I think we just talked about is like effectiveness,
Mhm.
right? Like, have you created a good system? Are you actually, good at your job? Are you actually following through on your consistency things? And I think something that underpins this effectiveness type of bullet point, our second step, is communication, right? If you don't communicate the system, if you don't talk to your other leaders and you don't say, hey, if I miss a day of practice, this is what I need from you guys. Or, hey, I can't, help everyone, or I can't like give everyone all my 100% attention on the team. I need some help from you to pick up X, Y, and Z.
Right.
guy,
And being
right?
okay admitting that too,
Yeah.
because like that's
Yeah, that's
something
super hard too.
as
Yeah.
a coach myself, like that's something I have to admit sometimes is that sometimes I get overwhelmed. Like
Yeah.
fuck in person, just on the S&C side, I'm around 30 athletes.
Yeah.
Like that's I'm in charge of 30 fucking careers. That's overwhelming at times. So
Yeah.
sometimes I need to ask people to pick up the slack because maybe I have something going on. I know it's crazy for athletes to think, but maybe I have something going on in my life
Yeah.
where I need to put
Craziness.
normally I can give all of you guys 90% of my attention. Sometimes I need an extra 10, 15%, but that's on me to be able to ask my athletes or ask an assistant coach or somebody else to help me pick up the slack.
Yeah.
This is kind of back to the coach asking for privates versus the athlete asking for privates. I think it's on me to say, hey, I need a little help. Can you help me? I don't think anybody's ever going to seek out trying to help me. I
Yeah.
think I need to be the one to initiate that as the person that's supposed to be leading the pack and say, hey, I'm vulnerable enough to say, I need a little help right now. Can you please
Mhm.
step in because I have other things going on?
Yeah, and I think that that comes with what we talk about, like being a self-starter and having some ambition, like on your own end, right? Like, and the humility to, like you said, accept that and then admit it and then take action on it. I think is huge, especially like I think from an athlete side too, right? Like, there is a little like nagging piece of me that like the athlete that's not seeking out extra help and attention in private is like, why aren't you? You need to be, right? Like in that sense, I understand coaches should seek out and like, hey, I saw this in sparring. Let's take a session and work on it. Like that is absolutely something that can and should happen. But the athlete, if you're not looking for ways to improve or becoming more self-aware of your game or wanting to ask for privates, why why should I spend that time?
For sure. I to play devil's advocate,
Sure.
some people that don't and this is something I've ran into. That's why I'm saying it. Some people that don't come from like a wrestling background where we had the academic setting of, okay, this is how we learn. This
Yeah.
is how we're supposed to operate. If they come from a non-collegiate setting, some people don't know that they're supposed to ask that they can go do that.
Yeah.
Some people don't know that that's what they should be doing. They just expect like if you just went from jujitsu to amateur fighting, they don't know that I should go get extra help in. They think just classes are enough. And
Yeah.
like that's where it's a muddy water right
Yeah.
there where most of the time I put the onus or the locus of focus, the onus of control on the athlete to ask for privates. But if
Right.
it's a young athlete, that's on the coach to be like, no, this is how we do things here. This is how we get to the next level is I need you to speak up when you need help. Otherwise, I don't know.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's a communication of expectations, right?
Exactly.
It's like in team standards and or just yeah, and that happens a lot of times informally with like your captains or your leaders on the team, quote
Mm-hmm.
unquote, right? Like not and it's as simple as this. This is how we do things here. Just so you're aware, go ask a coach for private. Or like I've noticed that like you have really good boxing, but your grappling is not it. So coach, Scotty, coach Alex can help you out a lot with that. Right. And then so I think being aware in that sense as a coach or as a leader to communicate those expectations, but also like as a fighter, you're being aware. So like I guess those are kind of two underpinning values is like the self-awareness that goes with leadership and being this like effectiveness in your leading, and then the like humility and communication that comes along with it to like actually get people on the same wavelength
For
and
sure.
bring people together
Well,
speaking the same language, to use your
yeah.
words.
And then another, I guess, communication part of leadership is being more positive than you are negative.
Yeah.
This is something I've struggled with in the past just because a lot of shit pisses me off. But like I'm relatively testy. I know I don't come off like that on the pod, but I'm relatively quickly irritated. But being able to stay in a positive frame of mind is something that anybody, not just athletes, wants from their leaders. They don't want somebody that's bitching all the time. They want
Right.
somebody that focuses on the positives and what they're doing right, or what
Yeah.
the system's doing right, or what they can go out and get better at, as opposed to what they suck at.
Yeah.
And reframing the way that you say certain things allows you to, I just think about everything like a fucking Mario Kart situation. I've
Yeah.
talked about this before, but basically it's just a stat bar. The more
Yeah.
positive you are, the more plus ones we get in our leadership category, because the more people are going to want to follow you, because
Yeah.
people like positivity.
Now I think there's a like a little subtlety to that, and almost like a catch-22, because even though like maybe what you say can be negative, like I need you to get it the fuck together, I need you to get going, like stuff like that. If there's an underpinning value of love and trust, that can become a positive interaction, right? So I
Mm-hmm.
think I think there's a subtlety to that. Is like you don't just like we say positivity. You don't need to be this happy fucking ray of
Right. You don't need to be
sunshine type
fake
of
happy.
person. Exactly,
Yeah.
but there has to be a positive connotation, I think,
Right.
behind what you're saying, right? Which comes from developing a relationship. And maybe that's like our third step, or our third thing, is to like really intentionally and skillfully build relationships. I
Mm-hmm.
think it's a huge value as a leader,
I
right?
mean, you
Because
have to genuinely care about
yeah,
the people that you're trying to lead. You
craziness,
can't just
crazy.
lead blindly.
Yeah. And I think there's two values that I've been super aware of recently that come from, like you're saying, talking about positivity, and then that authenticity point. Like the first part is when you're talking about, oh man, I just lost my train of thought in mid sentence. When you're talking about being authentic, your actions are going to show your true character,
Yeah,
right?
100%.
More than your words do, right? And so it's like, if I'm fucking getting after somebody and yelling at them and blah blah blah, but I also take the time after practice, put my arm around their shoulder and
Mhm.
like and come and console that action of, here, I'm actually here to care for you, counts a little bit more than me motherfucking you about your performance in the cage.
Right. It comes down
So
to explaining why you're motherfucking them, right?
yeah,
Don't get me wrong. Some people need an ass chewing. I was one of those people. I
yeah,
needed somebody to be on my ass. That's how I thrived. Was when
yeah,
I had a hard coach. That's when I was better. But
yeah.
I always knew my coaches had my best interest at heart. I had really good coaches from the time I was 6 all the way through college.
Which comes
Like
from a good relationship that they cultivated.
exactly. Like I've said this story on the pod before, but like when in college, I got held down. I was a very good wrestler on bottom. I got held down with legs one match. We had our assistant coach, Ross Needham. He said, "Come into practice for a 30-minute private." Guess what? That bitch did. He put a leg in on me. We started a timer for 30 minutes and he said, "Get out." That was it. That's all I had to do. I got out once
Yep.
and that shit hurt really bad. And I was fucking pissed because I'm like,
Yeah.
this is a pain in my ass. I have a test today. This is fucking dumb.
Yeah.
But then after the ass whooping that I just received, he sat me down and said, "I need you to feel like you're drowning.
Hmm.
I need you to remember this feeling every single time you step onto that mat, because you cannot get held down again. The basis of your wrestling game is being able to get that 1 point, and then we go into flurries from there."
Yeah.
If he didn't say that at the end, I would have just been fucking pissed the rest of the day.
Yeah.
But the fact that he went out and explained why we did the drill we did and explained why he gave me a motherfuckering allowed me to understand the drill and allowed me to contextualize why I needed to do it and get better from that. That's how you lead. That's how
Yeah.
you get somebody to buy in what you're trying to sell.
Yeah. I 100% agree that the communication, the relationship that round out the actions, right? Like that's maybe one way to look at it, is like the action is what matters, and how you can see like somebody's true commitments and things. But then the communication and the relationship building on the, either in the front half or the back half of it or whatever, round it out, and like you said, contextualize it really well for whoever you're trying to lead in that sense. What I forgot that I was about to say, we were talking about positivity, is the way that I've kind of been measuring this recently is, does this person give me energy or take my energy?
I fucking hate energy vampires, dude.
Energy
They're the
vampires are,
bane of
they're
my
so
existence.
hard, bro.
I'm to the point now. I'm just sick of
Cut
it.
it out.
100%. I literally I fire them on the spot.
Yeah.
They get 3 tries. If
Yeah.
you're an energy vampire after the third try, boom, you are out because I don't have time.
Yeah. 100%. And so So the way that I kind of see this as a leader, right? Like some people, like especially with my high school wrestling team, we talk about leading and like, and we're pretty hard on them. So I think some of the older guys or the leaders look at like, okay, the way to be a good leader is to yell at people, and it's like,
Because
man,
that's what their leaders did.
right. And so when I look at the kids, and I'm like, it's like, hey man, that's maybe not the most effective way to lead. Like I understand that you're trying to bring intensity and that this and that, but think about, was that a positive interaction or was that a negative interaction? Me telling you to shut the fuck up and sprint harder is a negative interaction. Me saying, I like, again, you don't have to be soft about it. You can tell somebody to sprint harder, but it's like, we need this for the team. Let's fucking go. Right. That's different than fuck you, man. Come on.
Yeah. Well, it's an easy way to think about it in my head. Like it was something, I don't remember who told me this, but you don't have to put somebody down to lift the team up, right?
Mm-hmm.
That never works because you're just pushing people down. Now, don't get me wrong, motherfucking somebody has its time and place, like I said.
Yeah.
But in order to raise the team up, you don't need to put them down first. You can just try to raise them up. It doesn't always have to start with a negative.
Yeah, which is that was something that I really learned, and I like took a lot of value in like my fourth and fifth year at lacrosse. Is like I was I was team captain. I was like
Oh, so when I
senior
left,
leader. Yeah, exactly. When you left, I was like, all right, now I
when I
can
left, you got to be a good.
now I can actually do what I want to do because this motherfucker's out of my way. But no, like honestly, what I did with at least two or three guys is like, you're a freshman. I was a freshman. I fucking hated being a freshman. And I understand that dorms suck. And like a lot of this shit is
I love being
awful.
a freshman.
I'm sure you did.
Yeah.
But it's like, hey, this is somebody I can like empathize with, take under my wing, and like just give this talk of like, this is what it's like. And this is how you can fucking get through that. And then give them a little bit of cheat codes that, I didn't have. Right. And so I think there is a lot of like cliche in that saying, but it's also a lot of credibility of like, be the coach or the leader that you needed.
Well, that's a good point, and that's kind of where we should go next. Is there's a difference
Sure.
between mentorship and leadership.
There you go. I
They're
like that.
very
Yeah.
similar, but what you're talking about is mentorship, the
Yeah.
one-on-one,
Okay.
the be or one-on small group, and being
Yeah.
able to lead individual circumstances and really make a bigger impact, right, on that
Yeah.
one person. There's certain people that are cut out for that and should be doing that, right? You should isolate that skill when you're, if we'll put it this way, if you're trying to be a leader, right? If that's something that you want to do, you're taking Jocko's courses, you're doing all these things, you want to make sure you're reading Leaders Eat Last, whatever it is, if that's a goal of yours, you should figure out what your strengths are. Are you good in small groups or are you good in front of large groups of people?
Yeah.
Like me and Alex are different. Alex is really good at mentorship. He's really good at being able to connect with people in the one-on-one, the small, tight knit, and have a group of 5, 6 people. I'm the opposite. I'm a fucking show pony. If you put
Mm-hmm.
me in front of a group of 100, that's when I ball. That's
Yeah.
when I feel like I can make my biggest impact because, like I said, like when the lights go on, that's when I feel like I'm cooking. And
Yeah.
being able to isolate that variable within yourself is something that's massive because you need to know how you lead. It's not
Yeah.
just good enough to say, "Oh, I want to be a leader." You need to figure out how do I lead these people and how do I get my message across the most effective way possible.
100%. And I think within that awareness or within that type of problem solving, like where do I lead and how can I be the best at this? It's okay to veer away from the things you don't like or you're not good at. Right. I think that that's a really hard thing for a lot of young or aspiring leaders to like grab hold of is like, it's okay to not lead some people.
Yeah,
You don't have,
$100.
you can't bring
You can't
everybody
lead
on,
everybody.
right? I can't have 9 billion people in the world behind me, right? It's not going to work like that. Right. So, whatever that takes the form of is like, I've definitely been a part of and seen this in strength and conditioning specifically. It seems like the natural progression is intern, rookie coach, pretty good coach. Now I have to be a mentor, right? And these people and some of the coaches that get to this point of like, now I should be a mentor and share back and give back and this and that. It's like you're trying to mentor people that don't want to be mentored or
Yes.
that you don't have a good relationship with. And this happens in fighting too. It's like for some people, I'm not tight with and I can't be their mentor, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh,
They're,
dude, that hit the nail on the head right there. Sorry to cut
yeah.
you off. It is it's more. okay, or I guess it's okay for people not to like you, right?
Yeah.
It's
Mm-hmm.
that is the hardest thing I had to get over when I
Mm-hmm.
was like stepping into more of a leadership role or into this building a fighter role where we're making our courses.
Yeah.
Is it was so hard for me at the beginning to make content, to do these fucking things. And I would sit
Yeah.
there for fucking 2 hours scrolling over my Instagram post to make sure there's no flaws, there's nothing
Yeah.
wrong with it. And now I'm to the point where there's certain people that are not going to like what you say.
Mm-hmm.
YouTube comments are some of the worst people on earth, right? There's some people that are just angry and upset, and they're not going to like no matter what you say. You could say
Yeah.
something they agree with, and they're just not going to like it because they don't like you. And
Yep.
that's just part of being a leader. That's part of trying to be at the front. Is that there's always going to be somebody that's going to try to claw you down to make them feel better about themselves, and that's okay. But understanding that your message isn't for everybody, but if you can find the right people for your message to be around, that's when special shit happens.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, some of this like criteria is you knowing yourself and being aware of like again, for me, I'm really good at the one-on-one, create a really good relationship, and then I can either, help coach, whatever. And I learn from my people that way too. I veer less towards the I need to mentor everybody type of idea, right? Because that public speaking thing or that it feels inauthentic to me because that's not where I want to be, which is, a point that we make a lot on the podcast about being authentic in leadership, in leading anybody. And we talked about this already a little bit, but it has to be authentic. If
Yes.
you're not living your truth and like, it's not like, it's different to be like, okay, I'm disciplined and I have all these consistent habits because I should, versus I'm disciplined and I have all these authentic habits because it reinforces a value that I want to embody.
Or I
Right? Like,
want to. There's a difference between
yeah,
doing it because you should do it and doing it because that's
100%.
genuinely what you want
100%.
to do.
Yeah. And people can see that from, a mile away, right?
Oh,
Like we
yes.
talk about how athletes can smell bullshit when you're coaching bullshit, right? When you're trying to have a leadership talk and you're this and that, like it's easy to call bullshit, right?
100%. Dude, you see it
And
all the time. You see the
yeah.
coaches that are trying to like falsely motivate their athletes and fucking
Hmm.
give this pep talk. And then you look in the back row because it's never in the front row. Those are the people that are trying to do that because they should be there, right?
Yeah.
Most of the time. You see it in the back row of the vets on the team. And they're like all laughing in the corner because they can tell that like, oh, this doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
this is total bullshit. This is going to go away in a week or two.
Yeah.
And like if you have somebody that's trying to lead, whether it's an athlete or a coach that's inauthentic, you're going to have a real big back row. You're going to have a
Yep.
lot of people walking away laughing. Versus if it's a message that you believe in, if it's a message that you want, like one of the things I talk about on here is we at Building a Fighter, we're here to lead the charge on performance care for combat athletes. We're going to make a big difference, and we're here to completely change the way that these athletes are handled and how their performance plans are wrote. Right? That's something I'm very passionate about, and I know you can hear it in my voice. If I wasn't passionate, if I wasn't putting in the work, if I wasn't doing this fucking podcast with Alex twice a week, if I wasn't literally just, I mean, I got bags under my eyes for a reason. If I wasn't
Hmm.
grinding out these programs and making these courses for everybody, it wouldn't be as authentic. But you
Yep.
can hear something in my voice when I'm talking about this because I'm fucking passionate about this. That's the number one thing that I should be doing. And
Yeah.
that's how you get people to line up. If you don't have that passion, like that's kind of a rule. If you don't have that passion for that, shut the fuck up. Like just if it's not something that you believe in wholeheartedly, you
Yeah.
probably shouldn't be leading with that, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I'm trying to get across is you have to have that passion for what you're saying. Otherwise, people will pick it up and smell the bullshit of you not
Hmm.
being passionate about that topic when they're trying to be led. People want to be led if
Yep.
you're in the right context. You just got to be in the right place as a leader to get your message across and truly believe what you're saying.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's definitely a pitfall is like uh, the coach. And I think we've all been here. It's like, I need an inspiration. I need a motivation. I need to say something to the group. And we end up settling
Yeah.
to say
Some
something
bullshit.
versus, being authentic about it. Right. And so I think that there's some just personality that goes into that, or like some meaningful. I think another thing that falls on flat ears is when I'm with a group and I speak a message that's not contextually correct, right? When you're looking at the young guys in your team, or somebody, they need a message that suits where they're at in their career versus the vets or the back row or some of the guys that know what's going on. They're not going to hear the fucking rah rah, let's fucking go for practice today message, right? Some of the other guys will for sure, and then similarly the rookies on the team aren't going to hear the um, I don't know, the more take care of your body, go to rehab, all this type of message, right? So it's like still contextually important to know who you're talking to and where, um, so that your message again doesn't fall on flat ears, right? That's like some of the context based leadership that we talk about that is important to meet your athletes where they're at, and then provide an actual message that you believe in that delivers with passion and delivers with like appropriateness, I guess.
Right. Well, that comes down to like being able to distinguish when's the right way to say the right message, right? Like if I like
Mm-hmm.
for those vets, for example, like I have a rule. If I'm going to talk about anything that needs to be motivational, I'm not going to
Mm-hmm.
call a vet out in front of a bunch of people, right? I'm going to
Yeah.
go up to them and I'm going to tell them, hey, I'm going to ask them what's going on because they've been in the game for a minute, right? They
Right.
know what motivate, like they know how their body should be feeling. And if I've noticed they've been off for 10 days, I'm not going to call them out in front of a group of 7 people. That's embarrassing
Yeah.
to a vet. I'm going to go up to them and say, hey, I've noticed that your motivation's been off, or I've noticed that like you're not giving 100% effort. Like, is something going on? Like, what do we need to do to fix? Because I need you to find that fourth gear. I need you to find that fucking fifth gear and get the
Yeah.
turbo going. But versus if I have a young kid, I've called kids pussies in front of everybody. And it's
Yeah.
just because that's how they're going to respond.
Lights
Like
a fire. Yeah.
exactly, that lights a fire under their ass. It's not necessarily as embarrassing because they're still finding their way. But then also vice versa. If I need to talk to a young kid that maybe they're doing way too much, maybe they aren't recovering, they're not rehabbing, they're not doing the little things right. I'm going to pull one of those young kids aside. I'm not going to chastise them in front of the group for something they don't understand yet. They don't know
Yeah.
how valuable it is. They're not doing it typically because of a lack of knowledge, not
Yeah.
because of a lack of want. So I'm going to pull them aside, say, "Hey, I've noticed your HRV's dropped. I noticed I was looking at your Aura ring and you've only got 5 hours of sleep the last 5 nights. Like, what have you been doing? Oh man, I've been playing Fortnite. Hey, well,
Chill the fuck out.
you're an elite MMA athlete.
Yeah.
I understand that you're 24, 25-year-old friends, that might be what they're doing, but you have goals, you have dreams, you have aspirations that you want to go after. I need you to start becoming a professional. I'm not going to
Yeah.
say that in front of a group of people to that person. I'm going to pull them aside,
Yeah.
educate them, and then I'm going to say, I need you to fix this because I need more out of your sessions. And then that typically works really well. But if I
Yeah.
say, listen, bitch, I need you to stop playing Fortnite and go the fuck to sleep in front of 7 other athletes, that's immediately a great way for them to turn off and they're
Yeah.
not going to listen to you.
Yeah. And so I think that goes into kind of this last skill of leadership, or this like fourth or fifth progression. I don't know what number we're on, but it's like, it's that idea of like becoming a chef, right? You have these different tools. You have the motivational speech in front of everybody. You have an inspirational talk. You have a shoulder to cry on. You have, the hugs to give. You have a tough conversation, which is like, we need to go sit down in the office for an hour and fucking talk about
Yeah.
the issues that are going on, right? Or just these different interactions. And then that's where you become like, your cardboard cutout of a leader into an actual fucking living, breathing leader of men.
Mhm.
Right. Like it's a hard transition to make, but that's what we talk about, becoming from a cook to a chef. It's like, what's the right fucking tool to get this person oriented and on the right track with me versus what do I feel comfortable, or like maybe what I feel comfortable doing, or what's my immediate like knee jerk reaction, like, because we all do it. My immediate knee jerk reaction, like believe it or not, is to be like, oh man, what's going on? What's wrong with this person? Right? I want to help. Right? I know a lot of other coaches, their knee jerk reaction is to fucking yell,
Yes.
is just to get on somebody's ass. Right? And so other coaches, there's different knee jerk reactions, but like, is that genuinely the best tool for the job right now? right? And that's where you become a chef with your leadership, if you will. And that's when, again, you can scale it, and then that's where you can get to be like a great leader per se.
I think one of the best ways to go from a cook to a chef is to understand the message of first seek to understand, then be understood.
Yeah.
The best leaders I've ever been around are the people that ask the best questions. And like, there's a coach out of Chicago. His name is Mike Powell. He was the Oak Park River Forest coach.
Yep.
And that man is somebody that I've looked up to for a long time, but he's one of the best leaders of men I've ever been around. And from
Mm-hmm.
all backgrounds, like Oak Park River Forest is in Illinois. It's one of the better wrestling schools. He's not there anymore, but it's one of those places that has a disparity in like income. You have kids from inner city, and then you have kids coming from $1 million homes. And I think that's a breeding ground for figuring out how to figure out your leadership style, because
Yeah.
typically that's a very different message you have to get across, right?
Yeah.
And he was one of the best I've ever seen at being able to ask the athletes questions, truly understand them, showing them that he cares, and then is able to give the message forward of how do I help that individual person at the right time. That's how
Yeah.
you become a chef, because that's how you dictate your leadership individually to each person instead of just saying a broad message. You need to be a good leader. You have to have your pillars that you stand behind. You have to have, these are my morals. Boom, plant my flag in the ground. This is what I believe in. Otherwise, nobody will get to the dance with you, right? If
Mm-hmm.
they don't know what you stand for, they don't want to be led by you.
Yep.
But once you have your flag in the ground, and once you understand who you are and how you want to lead, that's when you have to figure out, okay, I have these people behind me. How do I understand them the best way possible so I can make as big of a difference as possible to that individual person? And to me, that's what Mike did so fucking well. Of he had what his morals were. Oak Park River Forest, their wrestling team, boom, the flag's in the ground. This is what we believe in.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how do I get everybody understanding that message in different ways?
Yeah.
That's what he did so well.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And that's when you can create like a really good, like a movement, right? When we talk about like leadership, like
Well, he did.
what,
He went from Oak Park River Forest
yeah,
head coach to now he's the head of Chicago's Beat the Streets. Like, he's running the entire Beat the Streets organization. Like, that's
yeah,
good leaders always go upwards, which is kind
yeah,
of cool.
right. No, absolutely. But like even thinking about like the O Parker Reverse program, it's like they became a like staple, right? They became somebody
They were
that you know,
savages.
and so it's like, what's the ultimate goal of your leadership is to like bring people together under a common united
Hmm.
flag, which is what you just said, right? And it's like that's the ultimate goal is like, can we create some unison and unity behind a mission that benefits everybody, right? And so with your ultimate goal in your leadership, it's like it's a social endeavor that we're trying to reach the most people possible under a common unified approach to get somewhere we want to go or create a lifestyle and a movement of people that we think will genuinely make it the world a better place, right? Or for this wrestling program, for this fight team, like you're making worlds better.
Well, and sometimes it's almost, I've found for some people, it's too much to think about making the world a better place, right?
Right.
It's, if we can even bring that goal, that's one step backwards of how do we, what does it take for me to go from where I'm at now to the goal that I'm trying to accomplish or my team is trying to accomplish? Boom, that's my benchmark. All right. Now, what are the steps it takes to get there? And how do I get each person in my boat or on my team to start rowing in the right direction to get to that first goal? And then
Yeah.
once we hit that first goal, ooh, now we're cooking with gas. Now we went from a
Mm-hmm.
fucking rowboat to a motorboat. And then we can go from a motorboat to a fucking speedboat. And then we go to a yacht. And we just
Yeah.
keep climbing up and up and up. And the bigger the boat, the more people that join the movement. And that's really what it takes. And I'm a big picture guy. Everybody, if you ever listen to the podcast, you know I'm all about the fucking end goal, which is
Yeah.
completely changing the way combat athletes are. But if I don't have small incremental goals to get there, sometimes you get lost. And
Yeah.
sometimes people can't understand where we're going.
That's the art of building momentum,
Yep,
right? Like you have to start somewhere, which, and this is going to be kind of an off the cuff reference, but like leadership and building this and cultivating this within a team is literally what the show Ted Lasso is about. And
for
that's
sure.
why
Oh,
we
yeah.
love it so much, right? Is because he demonstrates all these skills, the ability to reach different people from different backgrounds, the ability to bring people into a mission and see the common good in it. The ability to use the right tool at the right time to like motherfuck somebody or step out, or the ability to delegate some leadership and help other people grow along the way, right? A lot of these morals and principles are articulated in a show, sure, but they give you a good recipe of like what leadership is.
100%. No, and that's something else. Like, I mean, that show is perfect for if you want to learn how to be a leader, go watch that show
Right.
because Ted Lasso, that character
Yeah.
is a leader. That is who I try to embody. That's who I know Alex tries to embody. That's how a lot of coaches should act with their athletes. But one of the things that he does very well, and we've talked about it a little bit with the communication piece, but finding ways to connect using their language, right?
Yeah.
Or easily understandable language. Something that some leaders try to do is, and I did this at the beginning of my career, where you try to use bigger words or you try to use complex topics to explain things because you want them to understand how much you know,
Yeah.
right? You want them to know that I'm a leader, when in reality the best way to lead people is to connect with them. You should be
Yeah.
using the most layman language possible. You should use the most analogies possible. Like the best thing they did was like think like a goldfish, right?
Yeah.
Like that type of analogy is what everybody can understand. That's why that show was so popular. And being able to find how you do that for yourself is how you become a better leader, because that's how
Yeah.
you expand to a broader audience.
100%. Yeah, and it's authenticity and how you embody it, right? Like another pop culture reference is like Game of Thrones, like the king who has to say "I am king" is no king, right? This you use the big words, puff your chest. I'm the fucking leader on this team. I'm the coach. It's like, all right, you've automatically disqualified yourself from that conversation.
See, I understand that, but sometimes you have to, right? You got to take the throne,
But
right?
I think you flex through your actions more than you flex through your words.
Right. But what I'm saying is like in order to get to a certain point, like I like that saying, but then like in order to become the king, you have to tell people you're the king first. People aren't going to say it, right? Like the fucking
Debatable.
Viserys was the what the fuck, the dude was it Viserys? That was the guy
I
that
don't know who you're talking about.
Vagar or whatever. Anyways, the guy that took the Targaryen that took the throne first, he had to ride in on the dragon, fucking blow people away and say, "Listen, bitch, I'm the king now."
Was that the action that made him king, or was that him saying I'm the king? Right. So
Both,
like
right?
again, time
Like
and place. Right. I think
he has to be the one to say, "I want to be king." It's not just
right.
everybody around him is saying he's the king. He's like, I have to show that I want to be the leader. The only way to show you want to be the leader is to say I want to be a leader. Like I'm all
But
for quiet leadership, but you
yeah,
need to people need to know that you want to lead them.
but that's different. Showing the desire for that is different than claiming it inauthentically.
A
Right.
hundred,
Which
oh, a
is
hundred
more what
percent.
I'm talking about
Yeah,
is like, let's say I walk into the gym, either gym that I work out tomorrow is like, all right, I'm the fucking leader now. It's like, since fucking what are you talking about, so I think that's the point I'm trying to make is like the action and the act of like the desire and the authenticity counts a lot more than like stepping in front of somebody and saying I'm your leader now,
for
right? Like
sure. No,
how
I'm
fucking
I'm I'm
flat
kind
would
of
that
coming
fall?
from where some people don't want to step up because they're afraid it comes off as cocky or it comes
Right.
off as like, oh, like they don't want to say they're going to be a leader because they don't want to be perceived as like it to be a negative thing, like they're stepping up too soon. I've seen it
Yeah.
time and time again with athletes that's a transition, going
Yeah.
from being led to being a leader. I mean, it's the age old, you got to learn how to follow before you can lead, right?
Well, I think that's more of a conversation you have to have with yourself
That's
than
what, and exactly.
yeah.
But that's kind of what, because I've gone through that where it's like,
Hmm.
at what point do I go from, all right, I need to be in the background to, okay, now I'm the one that's leading people?
Yeah.
It's going from an assistant coach to a head coach, basically, and understanding that it's okay to say, hey, I'm the leader. This is what we're doing. That's okay, right?
Yeah.
It just can't be from a place of inauthenticity. It can't
Yeah.
be from a place of you're faking it to make it. You
Yep.
have to truly believe in what you're doing. You have to put the work in. You have to be able to be a leader before you start saying you're a leader. The
Yeah.
problem is when you say, I'm the fucking king, and you're Joffrey and you're not fucking ready and you're just an asshole.
Right. Right.
That's the
It's the
problem.
title without substance. Right. And so I think, again, my point is the substance more important.
Mm-hmm.
Sweet, dude. That's a
I have
lot on
water in my mouth.
leadership.
Sorry. Oh,
It's
that went
good.
down the wrong pipe. That hurt.
You dummy.
Ah,
That's
you're supposed to talk more.
that's a lot on leadership.
Yeah, no, that was a lot on leadership. If you guys want to get in touch with us, all of our information is in the show notes. That's going to be emails and Instagrams. If you're looking for any programming, we have those available at buildingafighter.com. It's going to be our preset options. We have our membership options. We have our custom options. If you're looking for any strength and conditioning, we have that available at buildingafighter.com for any situation. So hit us up there. And as always, Dr. Austin Shane.
Alex Friedman.
And we are out.